Good morning, everyone. It is 10:01. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining me this morning. I know you are in the final stretch of summer break, and I do not want to take up much of your time. I promise to make this as painless as possible. I want to go through and talk a little bit about the student teaching practicum for this upcoming year. Some of you on here have fall student teachers and some of you have spring student teachers. However, they will all be starting with you during pre-planning. So we wanted to go ahead and do the orientation before you get started. Pre-planning, I know some of you may start pre-planning next week. So we wanted to go ahead and do this and get it out of the way before you get back into your schools and back into the swing of things. If you want to, you can mute your mic and turn your cameras off. I'm just going to be talking through these PowerPoint slides. And at any time, if you have a question, unmute and yell at me. I don't mind. I'll stop and answer questions then, or I will keep the chat box open. So you can type questions in the chat box if you have any throughout. And then at the end, any questions, I'll be glad to open the floor and we can discuss at the end as well. All right, so our field and clinical office here is going through a change. I'm Amber Ward. I'm the clinical director. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself on the first slide. I am the one that sends you all these emails, and I bugged you over the summer by sending all those emails. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. We also have Miss Morgan Whaley, that is our administrative assistant. She's been with us for a few years, and she's actually going to be taking a different position in the College of Ed. So she will no longer be our administrative assistant after this summer. We have hired a new administrative assistant, Miss Christy Kendrick. She'll be starting with us on August 1st. We're excited to have her. So you may see a new name coming from our office. Emails may be coming from Miss Christy Kendrick. Don't be alarmed if you see somebody new. She is going to be starting with us August 1st. And then Dr. Rachel Abbott is still our dean. And she typically doesn't send emails out to mentor teachers, but we do like to include her because you may see her. She does make appearances sometimes. So that is Dr. Rachel Abbott is our dean if you don't already know her. We also have some clinical specialists that work with us part-time. We have Miss Deborah Dean, Miss Jane Jones, Miss Lily Taylor, Dr. Lily Taylor, and Miss Karen Wyndham. They will come into the schools and meet with students. They will meet with you all for field experiences and student teaching. We also use our full-time faculty here at the College of Ed as university supervisors. So if you do not see one of our part-time people, you may see one of our full-time faculty members come into your classroom visiting the students. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in just a few minutes. So we have had a few updates over the past few months. The PSC has made some standard changes, and the USG has made some changes, and they are requiring some different things for us this upcoming school year. So we've had to tweak a little bit and change a little bit in our office and with some of our procedures. One thing is I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I think there's someone in the lobby. Okay, yeah, I just admitted. Okay, so we have made a few changes. One of the changes is if you have been a mentor with us before, if you had a field experience student, we use the term for you all as mentor teacher. If you had a student teacher, their senior year, their final semester, we use the term master teacher. We are now moving towards using only one term for you all, and that is mentor teacher. So we're no longer going to have mentor versus master teacher. We will just call everyone mentor teachers. Some of our mentor teachers will host field experience students, and some of our mentor teachers will host student teachers. And then we've also had to start a new mentor teacher database because of some of these changes. And we had to make a new online application for our mentor teachers. Whenever I sent out your email telling you what your student teacher's name was and when they'd be there, I also put in that email the link to a new application that we have. This is not a very long application. It shouldn't take you but just a few minutes to complete. But if you all haven't had a chance to click on that link in your email, I did make a tiny URL /GSW Mentor Teacher app. If you don't mind, in the next few days, if you'll go on and fill that mentor teacher application out for me, even if you have done an application for us in the past, we do have to have this one because of these changes, and it's a new application. It's going to a new place, a new database. Like I said, it's not very long. It doesn't take but a few minutes. If you don't mind going in and filling out that application. I will send you all this PowerPoint so you'll have that link, but you can also look back in your email where I sent that email to you in May or June, depending on when we got your placements ready. But I sent that email out giving you your student teacher's name and all of that information before you all left for summer break. The link is in that email as well. Okay, so you all wear many hats. You are a teacher yourself. You are a coach. You are a learner, a collaborator, trusted listener, resource for student teachers, problem solver, advocate, facilitator. We just want to, again, thank you for giving your time and hosting a student teacher this upcoming year. We know that there are so many things that teachers, so many hats that teachers do have to wear these days. And you are putting on a mentor hat as well this coming up school year. And we want to thank you for that. GSW would not have the programs that we have, and we would not be as successful as we are without mentor teachers like you that are willing to mentor our student teachers throughout their field experiences and their student teaching semester. So we do want to thank you again for all those hats that you do wear as a teacher and the hats that you wear as a mentor teacher. So some interaction and support that you will be able to provide for student teachers. Instructional support, you'll be able to give information about teaching strategies, the instructional process or content in your classroom throughout the year. You'll be able to give information related to procedures and guidelines of the school district. A lot of these student teachers that are student teaching in your school district have an interest in your school district. They may be from your area, or they may have had some field experience there and have asked to come back because they're interested in getting a job there one day. So you being able to provide them some of the procedures and guidelines of your school district throughout this year is beneficial for them if they are interested in getting a job one day in your school district. You are a resource for them to be able to help find resources out there that they can use during their student teaching. Sometimes whenever they're getting ready to teach a lesson, they have no idea where to begin to find resources. So you are there to help them in locating some of those resources. Of course, emotional support, just like you all, we know you all wear many hats. Our student teachers are wearing many hats as well. They're going through as they're going through their student teaching semester. They have courses here that they are completing. They have a student teaching assignments, and they're also just trying to learn the ropes of being in a classroom all day, every day. This is very new to some of them. We do have a few student teachers that have been paras in the past, so they have had to be in a classroom all day, every day. But most of these student teachers for you all that I'm on the call with today are just our traditional student teachers, and they have not been in a classroom all day, every day for this long. They have been in field experiences, of course, but they have not had a full semester's worth of waking up every day, going to work or school every day, from 7:30 to 3:30 or 8 to 4, whatever your contracted hours are. For most of them, this is their first time doing that for a full semester. So just being there for emotional support for them as they're going through some of these things and learning how to do this, and being a listener and sharing some of your experiences with them. And then obviously, our student teachers are not going to be the best classroom managers. They are just learning. That is one thing that they say is the hardest for them is classroom management. So they obviously are going to turn to you for, management advice and how to manage and organize your school day, your students, your classrooms. Parental help is also something that our student teachers ask for a lot because they are not used to dealing with parents. So they will probably come to you and ask for help if they have parents that come to them, or if you have parents that come to you, letting them be a part of that, and letting our student teachers be involved in the process of working with those parents, calling parents, emailing parents, things like that. Just giving them meeting with them at parent teacher conference days, just giving them that chance to interact with parents as much as possible during this semester will help them tremendously, and also giving them some ideas about conferencing. And then also giving guidance and ideas related to managing students. That goes back to management, um, not only managing and organizing a classroom, but actually managing student behavior. This is difficult for a lot of our students because they have not been in a classroom for a full semester yet. And so they still um, ask a lot of questions about classroom management, about what a day-to-day management plan looks like. They are, learning those things here in some of their classes. Some of them have already been through a classroom management class. Some of them will be going through it this fall. So they are still learning that, and they may come to you about advice for classroom management. Okay, so this is our mission statement in the College of Ed. I'm not going to read it to you, but I do have to include it in all of our orientations. And then also we have our conceptual framework, the 4 concepts of the conceptual framework. These are our student learning outcomes for our students here at GSW. They go through these 10 outcomes throughout their program. By the end of student teaching, they will have made a portfolio to show that they have mastered all 10 of these learning outcomes. So before they start student teaching, they have to have a pre-service certificate, and we have already double checked everyone. They're all up to date with their pre-service certificate, so no one has to worry about that. When the PSC issues their pre-service certificates, they go through background checks with the PSC. All of that's been done through the Georgia PSC. They have a pre-service certificate, just like you all have a teaching certificate. Theirs shows up as a pre-service certificate. They have a number and everything. We have all of that on file. Everyone's good to go with that. They also have to have liability insurance, and typically our student teachers use PAGE, the Professional Association of Georgia Educators. They use this membership to provide that liability insurance. So we do ask them to submit a copy of their membership card and liability insurance. We ask them to submit that before they start pre-planning with you so that we have that on file, just so that we know that they are covered while they are in your school buildings. So before they actually start their full student teaching practicum, they have to complete opening school experience. Like I mentioned in the beginning, some of you have fall student teachers, some have spring student teachers, but they all have to complete that opening school experience, which is days at the very beginning when you start pre-planning. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And then they also have to attend a student teaching orientation at the beginning of their student teaching semester before they can begin the actual student teaching assignments. So the Georgia assessments that our student teachers have to take, they do have to take the ethics assessment, and they all have done that already. They did that when they were admitted to the program. But to get out of the program and to be a certified teacher, they do have to take GACE 2. They will be doing that either the semester before they student teach or the semester during student teaching. They may have to miss a day from your classroom because they're going to take the GACE. We do allow them an absence to go take the GACE if they, schedule that during their student teaching semester. A lot of our students like to take it the semester before they student teach just to get it out of the way. But some of them do like to wait until the very last minute and they take the GACE while they are student teaching. They actually do not have to pass the GACE to graduate. As long as they attempt GACE 2, we will let them graduate. However, as you know, they will not be able to be certified until they have passed the GACE assessment. So they can graduate and retake it after graduation, but they just would have to put their certification off until they do pass the GACE if it's after graduation. So, as a mentor teacher, if you have hosted students with us in any recent semesters, you will know that our online platform that we use has changed, and they now have a new name for it. It's called SLL, Student Learning and Licensure. It's still through Watermark. So we used to, at one point, we were called Live Text, and then that changed to Via Live Text, and then they changed it to just Via, and now Via is called Student Learning and Licensure. So you'll see emails from me about SLL. This is the platform that you will log into to do evaluations for your student teacher and to approve their time logs for the time that they're in your classroom. If you have not set up a mentor account with SLL before, I will add you to the system and I will send you an email on how to do that. It's not a hard process. You typically just enter your school email address and click forgot password, and then they just send you a temporary password, or they send you a link to log in, and then you can change it to a password that you would like to use. And then we'll use that password in the future times that you log in. So I will be doing that in the next couple of weeks. I will be sending out the ones of you that do not have a mentor account. I'll send you an email on how to log in if you haven't done that before. Your mentor account for this program is free. You do not have to pay for this mentor account. If any of you have had courses at GSW recently, if you've been through our master's or EDS programs and you've had an SLL account with us from GSW that you had to use your Radar email address for, this mentor account for your student teacher is going to be different. You're going to actually use your school email address for the mentor account. So if you had a student account as a master student or an EDS student, you will have a different account for this mentor experience. Okay, so the student teaching team consists of mostly three people, but I am kind of thrown in there as well. So you all, I'm sorry, that still says master teacher. I've got to change that to mentor. You all will host the student teacher in your classroom. You will complete evaluations in SLL, like I was just talking about, the online platform that we use. You will also complete some walkthrough observations throughout the semester. Those will be on paper. The student teacher will bring those to you on the weeks that they are due, and we put the responsibility on the student teachers. I don't like to send all of those to you because I don't want you to have to worry about which one goes on this week and which one goes on this week. We put that responsibility on the student teachers to pull it out of their notebook and give you the observation, the paper that needs to be completed that week. Once you complete it, they will take a picture of it and upload it in their account, so you don't have to upload it in your mentor account. And then you will be able to approve their time log in SLL, and you will communicate with their university supervisor and with me, the clinical director. You'll mostly be communicating with the university supervisor once they are assigned a university supervisor. Our fall student teachers will be assigned a university supervisor within the next couple of weeks as we get started with our semester. Our spring student teachers will be assigned a university supervisor in January. So the student teacher will obviously be completing all of their student teaching assignments for us, and we will ask them to plan, instruct, and assess in your classroom, and the whole time that they're with you, they will be learning. The university supervisor will come out to your classrooms and conduct some in-person observations. They may also do virtual observations throughout the semester. They will be in constant communication with the student teacher, in communication with you all. They will be the ones that will grade all of their student teaching assignments. And we consider them the liaison between GSW and you all. So if you have questions, concerns, typically the university supervisor will be your first point of contact. And they always reach out to you and let you know who they are at the very beginning. Like I said, spring student teachers will not have an assigned university supervisor until January. So for now, if there's any questions or concerns that you have about your student teachers during the opening school experience time, you can just reach out to me because they don't actually have that contact person until January if they're student teaching in the spring. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the opening school experience. So all student teachers in their final year, fall and spring student teachers, do have to complete this opening school experience at the very beginning. So this is considered pre-planning and the first however many days of school that equals 10 full days. So if your school system has 5 pre-planning days, then they would come for those 5 pre-planning days plus 5 of your first days of school. If your school has 4 pre-planning days, then they would do those 4 plus 6 more days while students are there. While they are there with you during pre-planning and the first few days of school, we ask that they attend all the same meetings that you have to attend. We want them to experience the same things that you all have to experience during pre-planning. We want them to be prepared for when they start their first year, that when they go into pre-planning, it's not just 5 full days of getting to decorate your classroom all cute and we want them to understand that pre-planning is a lot of professional learning, professional development, meetings, grade level meetings, full faculty meetings. We want them to experience all of those things with you all now so that they're prepared for that when they do have their own classroom. So the 10 full days should include the open house or meet and greet that your school does. We do ask them to stay for the open house. So if you have to be there at 8 o'clock the morning of open house and they don't and y'all are not done until 8 p.m. that night and it's a 12-hour day, we do ask that the student teachers to do that with you. I have told them if they, allow you all to leave for lunch or allow you to leave for a couple of hours and then come back, a lot of times schools will do that on open house day. I have told the student teachers that that's fine. They can follow your schedules. They can do whatever your administrators allow you all to do during that time. But otherwise, we do ask them to go to all the same things that you are going to. If for some reason any of you are going to any kind of conferences or professional learning somewhere off campus that student teachers would not be allowed to go to, that's fine. We can make a plan for them if they have to sit in with another teacher while you're gone, something like that. We typically don't have that happen, but if it does and that happens to you, just let me know and we can make a plan with the student teachers. So during the opening school experience, during those 10 days, we asked the student teacher to log those 10 days in their opening school experience group in SLL, and they'll have a time log in there. Once you get your SLL account up and running, you will see a group titled Opening School Experience, and once you click on that, you should be able to see your students' information. I do connect your student's account with your account so that you can see their information. You should be able to see their time log where they've logged the 10 full days. I told them that they did need to make sure that they logged that open house so that we can see that. That is a requirement that they attend an open house. So I told them to make sure they do comment that when they log it. But otherwise, you will just approve those days that they have been in your classroom, that they were there for pre-planning and for the first few days of school. The student teachers will also have some assignments to do. They're listed there in the student teaching column. They will be doing that while they are with you. Some of them have already started working on some of these things, and they will continue working on them while they're with you for those 10 days. And they actually have the whole month of August to get these done. So we have all of their assignments due August 31st. They will turn these into us. They don't turn it into you. You don't have to worry about any of that, but they may have some questions as they're working through their assignments. They may have some questions for you about certain things. I know for the online platform reflection, they have to find out what online platform you all use as a school. If you have like Google Classrooms or if you use things like Schoology, they do have to find out that. So they may be asking you some questions about that. And then they do have to create a Google Classroom. Even if your school is not a Google school, we do make them create a Google Classroom just for GSW purposes and for them to be able to submit things in that classroom for us. So even if you're not a Google school, don't be alarmed. We still do make them make a Google Classroom, but it's just for us. They don't have to do anything in it for your students. So during the opening school experience time, I would like for you all to ensure that your SLL account is working properly and that you can see your student teacher's information in there. Like I said earlier, if you have never had an SLL account before, a mentor account, I will send you an email when I get you in the system and we get that up and running. I'll send you an email on how to start your mentor account. In that group, the opening school experience group, you will see one evaluation to complete for the student teacher during these 10 days. So this evaluation is not going to be an evaluation of them teaching because we know that they're probably not going to be teaching in those 10 days. Obviously they're not teaching during pre-planning, but we doubt they're going to get a chance to teach during the first few days of school. So this evaluation that you will do for them in this opening school experience time will be a dispositional evaluation. So it'll be more like, their communication, their professionalism, their initiative, their attitude, working with others, things like that. So we hope that you will be able to see some of those things, hopefully all of those things on that evaluation in those first 10 days. So that you can do that evaluation for them at the very beginning of this school year. And we do ask that you approve those time log entries as well. And all of that, the evaluation and the time log will be found in SLL. If for some reason you have an issue with your SLL account, please reach out to me or tell the student teacher and ask them to let me know. I can go in and see what's going on and we'll get it fixed and up and running for you. Okay, so a few changes that we've made to opening school experience since COVID. We didn't used to have our student teachers make Google Classrooms um, before COVID came along. But as you all know, I'm sure a lot of you were teaching during COVID, and you know that whenever the world shut down, you all had to start teaching in your online classroom, whether that be Google or which whatever platform that you all are using, your school is using. You had to start teaching in an online classroom. So that's one of the things that the PSC has changed. They have, asked that universities now. Make sure that their students know how to use an online classroom, and we can prepare them to teach in an online classroom in the event that our world shuts down again. So they do have to now make that Google Classroom, and they have to post things in the Google Classroom for us for student teaching. They have they will have to post like one assignment in there during opening school, but mostly they'll be using it during their student teaching, their 15-week practicum. They'll mostly be using it during that time. Like I said earlier, they may ask you about your school's online platform that you use, and they do have to create that right now during the beginning of the school year. Miss Boyd, I think you had your hand raised. Did you want to ask a question?
Yes, just to be sure, the Google Classroom that the student teacher creates is separate from the Google Classroom that I use. Like we can't just be co-teachers on that one account.
So it is separate because what we have run into is the Google Classrooms. If you all use Google, um, we have not found a school yet that will let let us in. And our so they have to add me and their university supervisor as a student or as a co-teacher on that Google Classroom that they create for us to be able to see their assignments that they're submitting, and for the supervisor to be able to grade those assignments in there. Because your school systems will not let us be added, we ask them to create a separate Google Classroom with their personal email address so that we can be added and we can see their Google Classrooms.
Okay.
Now, if your school systems, your Google Classroom that you use, and you have all of your students added in there, if your school systems will allow the student teacher to be added and you would like for them to be added, that's perfectly fine. If your school system will allow that, they can be added to your Google Classroom and post just like you would be doing throughout their student teaching semester. But we won't have to see that at GSW. That can just be something that they're doing with you throughout the semester, but they won't post their assignments and things in your classroom that your parents can see.
Okay.
Okay, so that pretty much covers the opening school experience um, part of this orientation. If you all have any questions about those first 10 days that they're with you, please let me know. I want to move into talking a little bit about their actual student teaching experience, their practicum. This is a 15-week practicum, so it's a full semester. We do have fall student teachers and spring student teachers. So if you are hosting a fall student teacher, they will obviously start with you during pre-planning and they'll be there for the first few days because of that opening school experience. But they will continue on with you through December 4th. They will not stop after the 10th day and then come back. So if you have a fall student teacher, they start with you on day one of pre-planning and they'll be with you until December 4th. Now, there are certain days that I will have them come to GSW for seminars, for orientations, things like that. I try to do most of those after school in the afternoons, evenings, so they don't miss student teaching. But there may be a handful of days that they do have to miss student teaching for things at GSW. I will give them a calendar very soon, and they will be able to provide that calendar to you, and I will also send you a copy of that calendar just in case they don't give it to you. But I will give that to them at the student teaching orientation in a couple of weeks. That's for fall student teachers. For spring student teachers, they actually will not get their whole student teaching calendar until January. So they won't go through the orientation process with me until January. They've already been through the opening school experience orientation, but they won't actually go through their student teaching orientation until January. Those spring student teachers will start with you on day one of pre-planning, and they'll be with you for those 10 days. Then they'll have to stop and they'll come to class at GSW. All of them will have fall classes. Some of them will, most of them will have field experience in the fall. So we have tried our very best to allow them to complete that field experience time with you all so that they're with you at the very beginning of school, a little bit in the fall, and then they come back to you in January. So if you have an elementary education candidate, they will come to you for 4 weeks during the fall semester. Those weeks, I do have those weeks. I can pull those up in just a minute and let you and share those with you. But I did ask the student teachers to go ahead and share those weeks with you so that you know when they are coming back. It's in September, October. They'll be there for 2 full weeks, then they'll come back to class for 2 weeks, and then they come back to see you all for 2 more weeks. Special education candidates will have those same full weeks, it's 4 full weeks, but they also will come on some Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they'll come more than the elementary education candidates. And then middle grade, secondary, music, health, and PE. They do not come for weeks at a time. They usually have a set number of hours that they have to complete. So if they have to complete hours this fall semester and they're coming to you for those hours, then they will let you know how many hours, and then I ask them to make a schedule with you about when they are coming during the semester to complete those hours. Some of them may have 15 hours, some of them may have 100 hours. It just really depends on what classes they're taking here and how many hours are attached to those classes. And then your spring student teachers will return in January for that full 15-week practicum. Now, they may not, well, I can pretty much tell you, they will not be coming as early as you all go back. So some of your schools may start back January 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I'm not sure, but y'all usually start back that first week in January. The student teachers will not start until probably that second week in January. I do not have a date approved yet for their start date in January, but usually we can't have them start until our first day of class here at GSW. So I will have orientation with them before they come to you for that first day that they start with you in January. Probably be around the second week in January. I will get them that date as soon as possible, and they can let you know what date they'll be starting. I usually send an email out around the end of the fall semester to you all spring student teacher. Those of you that have spring student teachers, I usually send out an email just to tell you what date they are coming in January, just so you can be prepared and just so that you know that they're not going to be coming right when y'all start back in January. Okay. Are there any questions right now? So this next part, I want to dive just a little bit deeper into what that full 15 weeks will look like. Week 1 through 5 of their student teaching practicum, we ask the student teachers to start taking on responsibilities in the classroom. So this may look different for everyone depending on what subject you teach, if you teach all subjects, what grade level you teach, if you have more than one class during the day. This will look different for everyone. But we want you to work it out with the student teacher for what works best with your classroom. We asked them to start taking on responsibilities in some kind of order that you all, as the mentor, feel comfortable giving away the responsibilities to them. So, for example, on week 1 of their student teaching semester, maybe you feel comfortable giving them the reins with morning work. Maybe you feel comfortable giving them the reins of taking attendance. If you're an elementary teacher, you probably take up ice cream money or popcorn money or field trip money or things like that. Those kinds of things that you do in the mornings, if you feel comfortable giving that to them as one of their first responsibilities, that it can be something as simple as that for them to take on that first week. By the second week, we hope that they are starting to teach just a little bit, getting their feet wet, and starting to teach maybe small groups or whole group by that second week. So week 1, let's say they do morning work, or they do calendar time, or they do transition time and recess and those types of things. So they're still going to do all of that on week 2 that you gave them to do on week 1, but they have to add something else to week 2. So they're doing all the responsibilities from week 1, plus you're adding a little bit of responsibility on to week 2. So maybe they're doing all of those things from week 1, plus now they're going to be teaching math small groups, or they're going to be teaching your first period whole group, depending, like I said, depending on your schedule and what your classroom looks like. So week 3, we asked that now they are really, they're getting into the swing of things, so we asked them to start teaching a little bit more in week 3. So they're still going to be doing what they had to do on week 1 and week 2, but now week 3 they're teaching another subject maybe. So maybe week 2 they started doing some math. So week 3 they're still doing that math, but now they've got to start doing a little bit of ELA as well. Week 4, got to take on another subject or another class. So they were doing math and ELA, but now you're going to have them do math, ELA, and science. Maybe you have 4 classes a day. So week 2, they're teaching just 1 class. Week 3, they're teaching 2 classes. Week 4, they're teaching 3 classes. And by week 5, 6, we hope that they are taking on most of the responsibilities in your classroom. So those first 5 weeks, they're gradually taking on responsibilities, taking on teaching load. And then week 6 through 10, for a full 5 weeks, we ask that they have most of the responsibilities of the classroom. So it is a requirement for them to teach consecutively a full day for 5 full weeks. So we typically put those 5 full weeks in the middle of the semester, weeks 6 through 10, because they've had those first 5 weeks to gradually build up. And then in those middle 5 weeks, they feel more comfortable and are more confident about teaching a full day. Now, obviously, these students are connected to you, and your name is behind these students, not our student teacher. So we understand that some student teachers may be a little more apprehensive about taking on a full classroom. We understand that you all as mentors may be a little apprehensive of giving away all of the responsibilities to your student teacher. And it really depends on probably how your student teacher is doing in those first 5 weeks that you decide during weeks 6 through 10. If you think they can handle it and you know that they have it going on, and you just say, all right, here, sink or swim. I mean, obviously we don't want you to let them sink, but if you feel like they have it and can do it, we want you to give them as much of the responsibilities as possible. But if you feel like they're still a little bit apprehensive about taking on things, it is fine if you use co-teaching models with the students. You can, have them do, y'all can split the classroom. You can have them do some students, you teach some students. Um, you may do this for week 6 and 7, and then you feel like they've got it and they can go ahead and do most of the teaching by week 8. You can make this your own, but we do hope that the student teachers are getting at least 5 full consecutive weeks in there of full-time teaching. If you are in an inclusion class, you're obviously going to be using some co-teaching models anyway, and we want you to just put that student teacher in there and go with it, and have them, co-teach right along with you. Even if you're using a co-teaching model, the student teacher can still get that teaching experience, even if it's with a smaller group of students, if you are using that co-teaching model. So please know that co-teaching is acceptable. Obviously, we want them to be able to learn from you, and they have actually been through a co-teaching workshop. They all had to do that this week. They were here this week. They had to go through a co-teaching workshop. So they know the different models of co-teaching. And we have told them that, you all may want to use some of those co-teaching models while they're student teaching. So towards the end of student teaching in those last few weeks, depending on if your student teacher, if they were ready in week 6 through 10, then in week 11, then they're probably ready to start giving back some of those responsibilities to you. If they didn't really start teaching full time until week 8, then it may be closer to week, 12 or 13 that they start giving back those responsibilities. But toward the end and their last few weeks, we let them start giving you back the responsibilities of the classroom. And we typically tell them to do it in the reverse order that they took them on. So let's say the first week they did calendar time. The second week they started doing math, third week ELA, fourth week science and social studies. So week 11, they would give you back science and social studies because that's the last thing that they took on. Week 12, they would give you back ELA. Week 13, they would give you back math. Week 14, 15, they would give you back calendar time. And so by that last week, they're really just closing out the semester. There's not a whole lot of responsibilities by that last week. So I know I just kind of went through that really quick. Are there any questions about the progression of the 15 weeks? Okay, and then the student teachers, university supervisors, they do, help you all out with this process if there seems to be, an issue, if your student teacher may be weaker and maybe they're not ready to take on by week 6, 7 or so. The university supervisor will help out with this process. But typically our student teachers by week 6, they're ready to go. They're ready to teach. So throughout the student teaching practicum, starting now, this whole year, even if you have a spring student teacher, this whole year, um, they will have to do some seminars with us, some events that we have during the actual student teaching semester. During those 15 weeks, the assignments, some of the assignments, of course, they have to reflect. They have to turn in lesson plans for us. They will be writing our GSW lesson plans for a little while. Once we release them from writing our GSW lesson plans, then they can start using the same type lesson plans that you all use for your school district. So I know you all don't have to write out the full GSW lesson plans in your schools. So we do allow them to start turning in what you all have to write for your school district or your school. I know some of you may already have like lesson plan books ready for the whole year. Maybe your academic coaches have, given you those. We will work with the students for them to be able to use some of those plans that you already have, for them to teach from those plans, and they can, work with us, work with our university supervisor with some of that. So we want them to obviously teach. And we want you to try to mold them and let them teach like your kids are used to, in your schools, in your school district. So we want them to mimic what you all are doing as much as possible, but then make it their own as well. They also have to do an impacting student learning assignment. This is a pretty big assignment for them during student teaching. This is where they will give a pre-test, teach a lesson, and give a post-test, and then they have to analyze that data from the pre and post-test. It's a pretty big assignment during student teaching. They have some digital learning assignments to post in their Google Classrooms during student teaching. They have that big summative portfolio at the end that they have to do. They have to turn it in at the end, but they'll actually be working on it all throughout the student teaching semester and adding to that portfolio throughout. This week they came here, and all of these student teachers, fall and spring, they came and we did a poverty simulation with them, and we did a co-teaching workshop with them this week. Both of those went really well. The poverty simulation, this was our first time doing this with our student teachers. We got a poverty simulation kit, and I think it went really well. Our student teachers got to step into that world and see what it's like to live in poverty, and they took it seriously. They put those shoes on just as they would have been living in poverty, and they took the simulation very seriously. We had a lot of good conversation after the simulation. A lot of students said, I've got to learn the kids in the classroom. I've got to learn where they're coming from so that I can, help them and be able to teach them better. So there was a lot of good conversation. I hope that they share with you all about the poverty simulation and what all they did, and some thoughts that they had about it. I hope they can share that with you, because I think it was a very meaningful experience for them. Like I said, they did go through the co-teaching workshop, so they know the different kinds of co-teaching models, and they understand that co-teaching is not just between a regular ed teacher and a special ed teacher. When you hear the word co-teaching, you always think inclusion classrooms and regular ed and special ed, but it can be so much more than that. So we went through, that with them in that co-teaching workshop. They'll also have to do mock interviews this fall. We'll have a teacher career fair in the spring. During student teaching, they'll do a couple of seminars and workshops for behavior management, resumes, laws and policies. Some of the SPED laws and policies, they'll do that. So those are things that they have to do this upcoming year, whether they're fall or spring student teachers. As far as grading during their student teaching semester, for the opening school experience, these 10 days and these assignments that they do right now in the beginning, they submit them in SLL, and my office is in charge of those grades. But as far as the student teaching grades, when they're in their 15-week practicum, that university supervisor that they are assigned will grade everything for them. So the university supervisor will be in contact with you, at different times during the semester. When they come to see them, of course, they'll talk to you. They may, set up times to talk to you when the student teacher's not there. So they'll get information from you about how the semester's going. Obviously, they'll be able to see the evaluations and the observations that you're doing for the student teachers. And then they will grade the assignments that they have to turn in to them, and they will assign their final grades. There's 3 student teaching courses. It's 9 total credit hours. So they have 1 course based on content knowledge, 1 based on teaching skills, and 1 on professionalism. So we have a a chart that breaks down the different assignments that go into the different courses, and the supervisor ends up assigning them 3 grades. Now, they could make 3 A's, they could make 1 A and 2 B's, they could make a C and a B and an A, any combination of grades during the student teaching semester is okay. It doesn't have to all be the same grade. As long as they make at least C's in their student teaching semesters, they can graduate in their student teaching semester. They can graduate. We typically have really good grades for our student teachers, as long as they are doing what they need to do in the classroom with you and they're turning in their assignments. We usually have, A's, a few B's. We usually have mostly A's, but we have a few B's sometimes. But most of the time, our student teachers are doing really well with their grades for their 3 classes. Okay, so this is a screenshot of some of what the observations will look like. Now, these are the paper copies that I mentioned before that the student teacher will be responsible to take out of their notebook and give to you on the week that it's due. So we usually tell them to give you the paper in the beginning of the week, and at any time during the week that you want to complete this, you can. And then by that Friday, we tell them to take a picture of it and upload it into their SLL account. So you do not have to worry about uploading this anywhere. You just fill out the form. We have the student teacher put it back in their notebook, and they take a picture of it and upload it into their account. That way their university supervisors have access to it. Their university supervisors will probably look in their notebooks as well when they come, just to check to make sure that they're keeping up with these and that they put them back in their notebooks. A lot of it is just check boxes. There are a few places to write comments. You don't have to necessarily write comments on every single thing on these evaluations, but if you see them doing something that week that really impresses you, let them know that. If you see something that they may be struggling with that you could, help them with, comment on that as well. So we want this to be a true representation of what you see that week. We do have about 10 of these for them to do, for you all to fill out for them. So we space it out where you have about 1 per week. But if you have an evaluation in SLL, because we try to, we try, I don't always work like this, but I try to call the ones in SLL evaluations, and then I try to call these paper copies observations, so that we can, the students will know what I'm talking about whenever I'm talking about both of them. We try not to give you both in 1 week. So if you have an evaluation in SLL due 1 week, then we typically don't give you the paper copy that week. We try to space it out where you're either doing the paper copy for them that week or the evaluation in SLL that week. I will have all of that information on the student teaching calendar. And like I said, I put that responsibility on the student teachers. I do not want to have to send you 10 of these and ask you to pull these out on certain weeks. I want the student teachers to do that because I know you have plenty going on already. You don't need to keep up with which observation paper you need to do which week. So I do ask them to pull it out for you. So this is similar to what you will see in SLL for the evaluations. They're called teacher candidate evaluations. They have 3 levels. So we have consistent, inconsistent, and inadequate. And no, I am not a big fan of these words. I do not really like level 2 being inconsistent. Because it does confuse the students sometimes. If you score them at a level 1 or 2, they feel like they're not doing what they should be doing. However, I try to explain to the students that you are not going to be consistent with everything on this rubric until possibly the end of student teaching, or maybe not even until you get your own classroom. These evaluations do look a lot like the TEKS evaluations that you all have had to have in the past. We hope to see progression throughout the student teaching practicum. I will ask you to do 3 of these during the student teaching semester. So for the 15 weeks, I usually do them every 4 to 5 weeks. So in the first one that you do, you may score them at inadequate or inconsistent because you haven't been able to see them, consistently doing these things on this rubric. And that's okay. It's perfectly fine. It's not going to affect their grade very much. I mean, obviously, we do take the evaluations into consideration when we give them grades, but what we really want to see is progression. What will affect their grades is if they're still scoring inadequate by the end of student teaching. If they're not adequately able to do these things on the rubric by the end of student teaching, then that would ultimately affect their grades. But we usually do see that progression in the student teachers. Usually the more they get to teach, the more consistent they get with all of these elements on the rubric. So we just ask that the 3 that you do space them out. So we do space them out on the calendar for you, but if you for some reason miss one during that week, just try to catch up on it the next week so that you will have a few weeks in between each of these to be able to score them. We do not ask that you write comments for every single element on this rubric. There's more than 3 elements. I just took a screenshot here just to show you what it would look like. But there are more than 3. If you've ever had a field experience student or student teacher in the past, you've probably already seen this teacher candidate evaluation. But if not, it's not hard. When you go into SLL, you just click on the evaluation and it lets you check in the boxes for the consistent, inconsistent, or inadequate column. It lets you check for each element. Then it also gives you an opportunity to write a comment for each element. We're not asking that you write comments for every single element, but if you do score them inconsistent or inadequate on something and you want to, give some description of why, that would be great. Even if it's just a brief comment, maybe, let's say differentiated instruction. This is a difficult one for all of our students. It could be difficult for you, even if you've been teaching for 20 years. Differentiated instruction is hard for all of us, I know. So let's say you score them at inadequate for differentiated instruction. Maybe you saw something that they did that they were trying to differentiate, but it just was not coming across as differentiation. Maybe you could give them a pointer on what could have been done a different way. So if you want to make a couple of comments on each rubric, that would be awesome. But then also, after you do these evaluations, just conferencing with them and telling them, why you gave them this score. And if you gave them inadequate or inconsistent, it's not because they're not doing it. It's just because you haven't seen enough of it for it to actually be consistent. I think that's the misconception that they have, is just because they get scored at an inconsistent, it doesn't mean that they're not actually doing it or not trying to do it. They all are trying, but you just know that your student teachers on week 1, 2, and 3, they're more than likely not going to be consistent at differentiation until they are able to practice it for those weeks that they're teaching. So that kind of leads me into my next slide as far as conferencing. So the student teachers can see these evaluations. Obviously, that whenever you write the observation on the papers, they're going to be able to see your comments and see what you say because they have to take a picture of it and upload it. But also in SLL, as soon as you submit the evaluation in SLL, it opens it up for them to be able to see what you have said. So we don't want them to have a surprise whenever they open it up to see it. If you have conference with them and you've assessed them weekly, then they are already going to know that differentiation is not their strong point. They're already going to know that before they pull up that assessment to see what you scored them. That's one reason we give you these paper copies, because we feel like it's a whole lot easier for you to fill out the paper copy, and just when you hand it to them, you can talk to them a little bit about it when you hand it to them and tell them why you saw this, why you scored this, what you saw while you were scoring this. Just having informal conferences after your weekly observations. And even in the middle of, in the middle of the day, at the end of a lesson, if something went really well, just having an informal um, conference/comment about what went really well with that lesson or what could have been changed for that lesson. Obviously, when you're having these informal moments with the student teacher, this helps them to be able to self-evaluate and self-reflect. We want them to learn how to self-reflect after the lessons that they teach, so that they can, put that in their toolbox so that they can use it later if they were to teach that lesson again for your class or for a class, one of their classes in the future. Obviously, good communication is due process. You all have been chosen by your administrators as these student teachers, mentor teacher, and so your administrators already know that you have good communication skills. They know that you are going to be able to communicate well with these student teachers. Like I was saying earlier, evaluation develops skill and self-evaluation. We want them to be able to self-evaluate and self-reflect. So as you are doing those observation paper copies and the evaluations on SLL, we, have the students reflect on those. And then obviously, if you conference with them regularly throughout the experience, you're going to build that rapport a whole lot faster, and you'll have it throughout the semester. So this is a picture of the fall 23 student teaching calendar. So this is not what it will look like for our fall 24 student teachers, but this is an example of what the student teaching calendar will look like. I have two columns for what's due. I have a column for what the master teacher will do that week, and then I have a column for what the student teacher will do that week. So usually the observation, the paper copies, I'd like to put them in one color font. And then the evaluations in SLL that I was talking about, 3 evaluations, I put them in a different color font, just so you can keep track of which ones are the paper copies that you're going to be writing on and which ones are the evaluations in SLL. And the students will have this at the very beginning of their 15-week practicum. Right now, I have not given this to any of the fall student teachers because I want them to focus on their opening school experience assignments first. I do not want them to start worrying about student teaching assignments until they have started turning in and have a grasp on those opening school experience assignments. Spring student teachers will not receive this calendar until January, because I don't want them having to worry about it this fall while they're going through their classes. I wait and give it to them during their orientation for student teaching. So they will provide you a copy with this, but I always send you all a copy as well by email, just so you have it. And then struggling student teachers, occasionally we do have student teachers that struggle. Occasionally we have issues, not necessarily issues, but occasionally we have things happen to student teachers. For example, we had one student teacher that was in a bad car accident in the middle of the semester, so she ended up having to withdraw that semester and finish in a different semester. We have student teachers that we have more and more student teachers every semester that have children. And some of our student teachers in the past, their children have gotten really sick and they had to miss a lot of days. Some of those, when life happens, some of those things can cause the student teachers to struggle. Obviously, if something like that happens, we, work with the student teacher to figure out if it's better for them to withdraw and continue the next semester, or if there's, enough time that they can make up days at the end, if they can continue on with student teaching. That's just a case by case, kind of thing. We don't, we tell them if anything happens, any major life event happens, don't feel like you will not be able to finish, because even if you can't finish now, we will work with you on a plan. So if anything happens, we will be in contact with, the student teacher and you all to make that plan. If you notice a student teacher that's struggling in day-to-day areas, like maybe they are showing up late, maybe they are not staying until time to go. We do ask the student teachers to be there at the same time you have to be there, and we tell them they can't leave until you can leave. So if your contracted day is 8 to 4, then that's what the student teachers should be there for. So let's say they're coming in late a lot, they're leaving early a lot. Let's say they're staying on their cell phones all day and they're not taking it seriously. Let's say they're not showing you their lesson plans. Obviously, they need to be communicating with you about their lesson plan. So even if they're writing the GSW lesson plans, they need to be showing those to you and talking with you through those, so that what needs to be taught, you make sure that they have that in their lesson plans and that they will be teaching that. So, they have to be in constant communication with you. If you have a student teacher that's not communicating with you about their assignments that they're having to do, or they're not communicating about lesson plans, or they're not open and receptive to your evaluation and observation feedback. If you have these issues, please reach out to us early. Don't wait until it gets too far out of hand to reach out to us. We are here and we want to help. We can call the student teachers in. We can work with them on some goals. We have what we call a professional intervention plan that we can start for them, work with them on some goals to get them back on track. Just please know that we are not going to think any less of you if you reach out to us and let us know what's going on. We want to know what's going on out there. Obviously, our student teachers, our university supervisors can't be out there every single day with you, so we're relying on you to be able to let us know if there's something going on, if there's a struggle that the student teacher is going through. Even if maybe it's not attendance, or maybe it's not tardiness or cell phone usage. Maybe it's some type of emotional struggle, and they have made it very clear that there's an emotional struggle there. If we do have counseling services here on campus, so please let us know. We can refer them to the counseling services if they need it. This mental health is a big thing for teachers these days, and we want to help our student teachers through this. I know as much as you do. So, letting us know about things, we really appreciate it, and letting us know early on so that we can try to, get in and help as early in the semester as possible. All right, so I have basically come to the end of the orientation. I do want to open it up for questions if anyone has any questions. I know that this was a lot of information at one time, and I know for those of you that have spring student teachers, that it is a long time away before they'll actually start their full 15-week practicum. But I did want to just do this orientation to give you a brief overview of what the semester would look like. I will send you this PowerPoint. I will send you the recording. I did record it, so you can always go back and reference this if you need it. But please know that the university supervisor, and myself, Ms. Kendrick, the new administrative assistant, we're all here to help with any questions you may have, any concerns you may have. We're here. Any praises you may have, we'd love to hear them as well. So I do want to open it up for any questions if you have any. Okay, well, I don't hear anyone unmuting and I don't see any hands raised. I think Ms. Boyd, your hand was still raised, but I think that was from earlier. Do you have a question or was that just from earlier?
It was from
Okay.
earlier. I didn't
Earlier.
unraise it, but
That's okay.
but I do have a small, tiny question.
Okay.
My team teacher last semester had a student teacher, and one of the rules was that the student teacher cannot be left alone in the classroom by herself with the students. Is that so? Even when they're doing their like all day, every day, like
I'm glad you did ask that. That is a question we get a lot. So we do tell the student teachers that they cannot substitute in a classroom during their
Mhm.
student teaching semester. So they can't, your administration can't say, Miss Boyd's not going to be here today. I need you to take over her classroom because you're in there anyway. You need to take over. So your school system cannot use them as a substitute for the day. However, in their 15-week practicum, when they're teaching, if you need to go to the copy room for an hour or the break room for an hour, or if you need to go to another teacher's classroom, yes, it's fine to leave them for short amounts of time.
okay, I was just
If
thinking
you
like restroom breaks or
Oh, yeah,
something like
that's
that.
perfectly
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Yes, they can be left for short amounts of times. You can actually have them, walk the students to lunch or walk the students to activity or recess by themselves. Those types of things. Once they get in there and you are, you're confident that they can control the classroom by themselves, you are more than welcome to let them do that. Leave them in the classroom for a little while. It gives them, in my opinion, if you had to go make some copies and go to the restroom, that gives them time to really see how they're going to control the class while you're out, even if it's only 30 minutes. And so, yes, that might be something that you even want to do, is to step out for just a little bit of time to let them see what it feels like to control the class by themselves. But I think the confusion has always been that um, occasionally school districts will say, well, your mentor teacher's not here today, so we're just going to let you do it. We're going to let you handle it. But we can't let them be in a classroom all day by themselves because they
What
can't
if
be considered a sub.
what if I do have to be out one day? Like
So
what
yeah,
happens with the student teacher?
so that's a good question as well. So if you all as mentor teachers are out for conferences or personal reasons or sickness, if you're out, um, as long as the school system provides a substitute in your classroom, the student teacher can continue to teach as long as there's a body in there that is being paid to be a substitute in that classroom. The student teacher can take over for the day, they can teach all day, as long as there is a paid sub in the classroom with them.
Okay. And I have one more. All right. We don't have to turn in formal lesson plans. Instead, we do like daily slides, and that is my plan for the day. And we create those weekly during professional development
Right.
time. So that's kind of what we use for our plan. Is that okay?
Yeah, so we typically, for the first 3 to 4 weeks, we make the student teachers write full GSW lesson plans. They get
Mhm.
really aggravated at us because it's a lot.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure that they can, write those full lesson plans, that they understand the meaning behind all the parts of the lesson plans. We tell them to use what you all have, like, use your plans that, you've already made or your academic coaches have given you, and use those same standards, use those same objectives, but put them in a GSW lesson plan and turn them into us those first few weeks. Once we release them from writing those full GSW lesson plans, then they can start turning into us what all you have. So if you do just have slides, they can turn in screenshots or, a copy, PDFs, whatever. They can take pictures of it and submit the pictures, whatever you all use. Once we've released them from writing those full plans, whatever you all use for your school, it is okay for them to do that for us.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. I think someone may be typing. If you have any questions and you don't want to unmute, you're more than welcome to type a question in the chat box. Okay, so we do have a question. My system would like for the student teacher to see our reading classes some as well. Is this okay to let them see the reading in their first 5 weeks? I just teach math and science and social studies. Yes, so we want this experience to be, mutually beneficial for your school system, your school, you all, and the student teachers. If your school would like for them to see some other classes, some other grade levels, that's fine. If you want to work it out with the student teacher on different times to go, maybe it's, a couple of full days that they go sit in another classroom. Maybe it's during a certain time of day they go sit in another classroom. Obviously we want these student teachers to get jobs when they finish student teaching. And most of them are interested in your school district. They've requested to student teach with you. So if your administrators are invested in them and want them to see other things happening in your school, that is more than, we're more than willing to work with you all and let them, see some other things. Obviously, they need to be doing a majority of the teaching in your classroom, but even if even if they have an opportunity to go teach a reading lesson, that's great also, because your student teacher in particular is only going to be able to do math, science, and social studies lessons for that semester. So even if you give them an opportunity to go to do a reading lesson and go teach a reading lesson with your team teacher or with another teacher in another grade level, that'll be great experience for them.
I came up with one more question.
Okay.
During the second semester, when I'll have a student teacher, it's also milestone testing time. So things do get a little different during that time of
Right.
year. What do we do during that also? How do we handle that?
So, yeah, and depending on when your school does milestone testings, it may fall in that week 11 to 15. So it may fall in the time that the student teacher's already done most of the teaching. So it may fall whenever they're giving you back responsibilities. However, if milestones falls, in that time right in the middle where they're supposed to be doing the majority of their teaching, obviously you are, as the teacher of record, you're going to want to make sure your kids get what they need right before the milestones test. So we would suggest doing as much co-teaching as possible during that time, um, or pushing the student teacher's schedule back a little bit. Maybe you want to take over a little bit in the middle of the semester during the milestones time, and then let the student teacher teach everything during week 12 and 13. So it's okay to tweak that schedule, based on what's going on in your school, what's going on in your classroom. Just make it work for you and your kids. We do know that these kids, you are the teacher of record, you are responsible for their assessments. So if it is, if the milestones falls during that middle time. It's fine to tweak that schedule some.
Okay. And we're in the middle of the Science of Reading training in our county. So does the student teacher also have to do that?
So I will say any trainings that they, even if it's other, we know that Science of Reading is, big right now. But any trainings really that they have you go to, if your county will allow the student teacher to do that, then that would be great. However, we know that some counties are having to pay for trainings and they only pay for a certain amount of spots and there may not be enough spots available. So if that's the case, just treat it as, the student teacher being with a substitute in your classroom. They can take over your classroom while you're going to those trainings and, work with a substitute in your classroom. But if your county does allow them to go, then that would be great for them to experience. Um, and they can attend any trainings with you as long as your county, allows that.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions right now? Y'all, I'll be glad to answer any questions by email or phone. Um, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me, now before pre-planning starts or during pre-planning, during that opening school experience time. Please reach out if you need anything, if you have any questions, or ask your student teacher and make them reach out to me. I've told them that they need to be in contact with me while they're out there with you all. So if there's anything you need, reach out to them, tell them to let me know. They will be assigned the university supervisor. If they're fall student teachers, they'll be assigned that probably like the second week in August. So at that point, you all have fall student teachers can start communicating with the university supervisor. You won't hear as much from me anymore. Once they do get a university supervisor, you'll mostly hear from them. And then in the spring, their supervisors will be assigned in January, and you'll start hearing more from their supervisor in January. But you're always welcome to reach out to me or Miss Christy Kendrick. I'll probably have her send you all an email when she starts, just so that you have her email address. And if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us at any time. I want to thank you one more time for joining me today. And I do want to thank you again for being willing to host a student teacher. Like I said, if it's not for you all and your willingness to host student teachers, we would not have successful programs like we have today. So I want to thank you for your impact that you're going to have on their lives and the teachers that you are going to help them become. Otherwise, you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your summer, however many more days you have of it. And please have a wonderful beginning of the school year.